I'm Homer Smith, and this is my story. I grew up in a great neighborhood, family neighborhood, with a couple of my friends, best friends living in the neighborhood with me. And at the time, we didn't have a lot of money growing up, but nobody else really around us did either. So that didn't really seem to impact anything in our lives. And so, really, I just picture our neighborhood, as kind of the center of my universe at the time. Every sport imaginable was played there: football, basketball, baseball with a tennis ball. My friends and I could just take off on our bikes during the summer in the morning and show back up by dinner time. I began to learn about money because my parents had a budget. If I wanted the nicer versions, if I wanted the Nikes or the Reeboks that maybe some of my friends were wearing, I had to use my own allowance money to get those. I do look back and say, wow, my parents, maybe not intentionally, but really taught me the value of money at a very early age. I believe I have really happy memories looking back from my childhood. Having split household and divorced parents, I think our parents did a really good job of keeping the issues they might have had separate. The biggest challenge I had was having to move away from my childhood home between finishing elementary school and going into junior high. Going from a town that I'd grown up in, a neighborhood that had tons of friends in, to a place where I didn't know a single person. There wasn't social media, so even though literally we were one town away, like 10 or 15 minutes from where I grew up, it felt like we were across the country. I was going into junior high. Looking back now and probably still even talking to my daughter today and others, it's probably the time of life when kids are the worst to each other. And my name is Homer. If you don't remember, at that time, the most popular TV show probably was The Simpsons. The main character was a bumbling idiot dad who also was named Homer. It was the first time that I really had to think about how that might play out with other kids. Also wondering, what did my parents do to me by naming me Homer? And I'm very proud of being the fourth Homer Smith in my family, but at the time, it was a pretty scary moment. But thankfully, sports kind of saved me. My parents signed me up for a football team, got to meet a lot of local kids and a couple in my own neighborhood over the summer, so before school started, and through them was quickly introduced to all of their friends. Both my parents worked, were extremely busy, but they showed up to every game that I ever played in every sport. They were my biggest cheerleaders. I remember, one of my basketball games, my stepdad got kicked out of the game for yelling at the ref. At my high school football games when I was a sophomore, backup quarterback on the varsity, maybe speaking a little too loudly about maybe the starting quarterback should be replaced by me, and other families hearing about it. I've definitely taken that for something that I've learned from my childhood that I want to do for our kids. My oldest daughter in ballet, my younger daughter doing soccer and basketball. I know they look to the stands to see if they made a good play, or our ballet, if we saw all the great moves that she made during the recital. I'm thankful that my parents instilled that in me, and that I want to be there and show up the same way for my kids. One of my superpowers in my business is helping families navigate the most complex transitions in their lives around business sales, around transitioning wealth to the next generation. And I really do believe going through that experience early in my life allowed me to kind of gain that as a superpower, whether it's with my clients or whether it was going to college and in a brand new place with very few friends, starting a career in financial services at 22, moving to Hawaii to manage a branch at 27 where I didn't know a soul. So that experience, I think, when I look back, really had a lot of impact on my life. It was 2001. I just graduated college and moved down to Bellevue to start my career as a financial advisor. Got my new stack of leads. Back then, we did a lot of cold calling. Just a couple of days into my career, I remember getting ready in the morning and watching the financial news, and there was a story about how a commuter plane had hit one of the Twin Towers in New York. As I was literally getting ready to walk out the door and turn the TV off, I was watching it when the second plane hit the second tower. The next couple of weeks were really a blur looking back, brand new career, but what I do remember is the market was closed and nobody wanted to talk about their investments or retirement planning. And, I'm a relatively stubborn person and I don't quit. And that's really where I discovered one of my other superpowers, which is helping people quiet the noise and really focus on what's most important to them. And that's become such an important part of my career as the level of complexity of my clients has, continued to just go up and up and up. The ability to help them really understand what all of the potential solutions are for them, the advantages and disadvantages, and put them in a position to make smart decisions. That moment in my career and figuring out my way through that, I think really crystallized my ability to do that. 2010, I was managing a branch for the same large wealth management company that I started my career with. I started to get disillusioned with corporate management, and I remember being on a walk with my wife and our dogs, and it just turned to her and said, I don't want to do this anymore. I really want to go back to the Pacific Northwest and restart my practice back home to basically start from scratch. Except the one thing that I made sure I had was a connection with a CPA firm that wanted to build out their own wealth management practice to support their clients. As I started working with them, I really quickly recognized that their very best clients were private business owners. And I also recognized I had no idea how to bring value to them. But what I did recognize is they were extremely busy and had a lot of complex needs. I started to go to school how to bring more value to these business owners, and really spent the next 10 years of my career learning more about tax planning, estate planning, asset protection planning, business succession planning. I was seeing some growth from that and joined mastermind groups, but I really wasn't getting what I wanted in terms of the total level of growth. The next, I think, super pivotal moment was I decided to hire one of the best strategists in the world on working with ultra high net worth business owners and families. And I knew that I couldn't get there doing what I was already doing at that moment and needed to make a change. And even the strategist said, hey, if you do everything I tell you, in 12 to 18 months, you'll start to see a meaningful difference in your practice. And I just did everything he said. And we're 3 years in now to our relationship, and I still feel like we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. I have a shiny object syndrome. If you have a good idea, what it really means is that there's a pile of money sitting in the room, and you just need to go pick it up. And too often, before I go pick it up, I'm expecting there to be just a bigger pile in the next room over. And what I really just need to do is go pick the pile up. And then if I decide to go look for another pile, I can go do that. So that's really the biggest learning I've had, is try to keep my shiny object syndrome to a minimum. So what I'd tell my 20-year-old self is, when you meet the love of your life at that wedding in 2005, invest and be a student of the game in your relationship with her as much as you are and have been with your business. She has really been the biggest cheerleader of my life. I could not have done what I have done without her. She deserves that same support. And two, really making sure that you stay focused on what's right in front of you and what's already working, and don't get distracted by shiny objects. I really love solving complex problems. Very rarely is somebody taking the bigger picture view and really making sure that everything they are doing is going to help them get the outcomes that they want to achieve. It's really just a passion of mine to want to make sure that they don't miss out on those opportunities. I really want to build the very best family office group wealth management company to serve successful business owners and families, to help them navigate these complex transitions and make sure they get the outcomes that they want to achieve.